Hey everybody, Rob Orgel, your favorite silencer nut job. In today's video, we're going to talk about, unlike what's on the table, bolt-action rifles. All bolt-action rifles should have suppressors on them. And I will look for an exemption for that rule, and I would love to hear your comments and thoughts as to what rifles should not see a suppressor as it pertains to bolt-action weapons. Now, without wasting any time, make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. Today's primary sponsor is Suppressor Tools. Now, this guy is not just a good person to do business with, and I always look for companies I enjoy working with, and I have to tell you, this is one of them. But also, he's come up with a bunch of great solutions to problems that we suppressor owners have, like all the different weird tools you have to have. He's found ways to combine a bunch of them. So, shout out to Suppressor Tools. Feel free to check them out. Why would bolt-action rifles not have a suppressor? Good question. Let me give you a list of reasons why I think they should have a suppressor. 1. Bolt-action rifles are sealed systems, meaning gas back pressure should have little, minimal to no effect on your weapon's performance when a suppressor is added. Even a high back pressure suppressor should really not affect how your weapon behaves. Now, there's room to argue on that as it pertains to small niches, internal ballistics type stuff, but we'll stay away from that for now. Just quite simply, putting a suppressor on your bolt-action rifle offers nothing but good things. 1, when you're low to the ground in the prone, like we are most of the time when we're shooting precision rifles, we will kick up dust. Now that dust gets in our eyes, gets in our weapon, and prevents us from seeing the impact on the target. So reducing that signature that affects us and our ability to observe our impact is very valuable. Next, as I mentioned before, back pressure doesn't matter. So really, I can now get into a lighter and even quieter suppressor because I no longer need quite the advanced spin-on gases going on inside of that suppressor. So there are hunting-specific bolt-action suppressors that are very lightweight and very quiet. So we open a bonus section into not just put on my gas gun suppressor onto this, which you can do, but I can put on an even lighter suppressor onto my bolt-action rifle. Recoil. When you add a suppressor to a gas gun, you can increase back pressure. That can increase felt recoil. However, on a bolt-action rifle, there is no back pressure going into that weapon. So it's only going to reduce recoil and tame the way that weapon behaves under recoil. This is going to give you better observation of your impact and quicker follow-up shots. Now, let's talk about how it pertains to the animal. There's a great rule about most animals you're hunting, like elk, for example. They can hear you 3 times, they can see you twice, they can smell you once. If any of those things happen, they're taken off. So hear you 3 times. They're most forgiving on hearing. So what that means is as you get in a position, if you're quiet, and the first thing that elk hears is the snap of the bullet passing over or striking him, you made your hit, or he might go, huh, what was that? And then if he hears bang shortly after, because the sound is traveling at around 1,100 feet per second. The bullet often is traveling 2,700 plus feet per second. So the bullet gets away from the speed of sound, strikes the animal or misses the animal. So it goes snap over that animal's head, and then the speed of sound will follow behind it. So that will be the second thing they hear. You might get a second shot even with an unsuppressed rifle, depending upon how experienced that animal is. If you have a suppressor, you might get a second or even a third shot before that animal spooks and takes off. So you get a little bit more forgiveness from the animal if you have a suppressed rifle. Next is the experience of shooting. Whether you're off the ground and not shooting at an animal, just the fact that you have a suppressor on the gun makes the experience that much better. And not just in reduced recoil, but that concussion taking place at the end of your weapon can cause a headache over a very short period of time, depending upon your caliber. If you're on one of those larger magnum calibers, that accelerates your head and that moves your brain into your skull in a way that can cause a TBI, again, dependent upon your caliber. A suppressor takes a lot of that violence out of the weapon. This makes for an overall better shooting experience, and I'm not just talking sound, I'm not just talking kicking up dust, I'm talking about your health and experience while shooting that rifle. Suppressors help tame all of those things. Long distance disturbance. So now let's take it out of your perspective and let's take it on a hunt. When you're on a hunt, and we have already talked about the animal and your experience, let's talk about the farmer who lives a few houses down. If he hears a gunshot, it might alert him to, oh no, something bad is happening, or should I go investigate or call the police? It's always better for you if less people know you're there. So if you're using a suppressed rifle, now of course I'm talking about legally hunting in spaces you're supposed to be hunting in. If your rifle is suppressed, you're going to disturb less people, therefore reduce the likelihood of encountering people who don't understand what's happening or think hunting's bad or just heard the gunshot so they called the police. And now you're having a law enforcement interaction, which can be dangerous, even if we're careful. A suppressor can remove some of that. Now, the cattle as well. We talked about animals we're shooting at. Let's talk about animals we're not shooting at. When you're hunting farms and helping with predator control or anything like that, you will disturb that cattle, and repeated disturbance can cause an interruption in their life. So a lot of cattle farmers, when they say, sure, you can hunt my property, as long as you're shooting suppressed because you spook my horses or my cattle, and that doesn't help me in what I'm trying to do for a living. So the suppressors don't just help you, don't just help your buddy, don't just give you an extra shot at the animal, but they keep everything and everyone else around you with a pleasant experience. Now, we talked about this a little bit, minimal reliability disturbance. So because you're on a sealed system, there's nothing for the suppressor to affect. Now, I'll throw a quick caveat, barrel harmonics. When you fire, your barrel does a little whip thing. People have argued with me in the past, that's funny. I can prove to you, it's a thing, that when you add weight to the end of your gun, the strike will be lower. When you remove the suppressor, the strike will be higher. If the barrel is thick, you'll notice less of it. If the suppressor is light, you'll notice less of it. If you combine the two, you'll notice even less, sometimes no impact shift. But the skinnier the barrel and the heavier the suppressor, the more of an impact you'll see. So just know that when you screw your suppressor on the end of your rifle, you do need to re-zero, or at least check zero. Sometimes you get lucky and there's no shift, but usually I see a shift to the side. Now, again, I teach firearms classes for a living. I don't do it as a hobby. It's how I feed my family, and I'm on the ranges usually 3+ times a week running individual or group classes through group training or private training.
Kill.
And a lot of this is precision work, and a lot of this is mentoring people through their first suppressor. So very often, as soon as that suppressor is on there, we see a shift to the south, and that's fine. Just know you need to check your zero when you add your suppressor. But once that's done, everything's back on track. Ballistically, you should see mirrored effect without the suppressor. It can increase your velocity, and that can make it fly a little bit better over distance, but most of the time you won't notice. So the end state is, once you're re-zeroed, you're rocking. Do double check that zero, but it will have no effect on your weapon after you re-zero it for that suppressor. And it's a good idea to leave the suppressor on. Taking it on and putting it back and forth, that can kind of cause impact shifts, minor but impact shifts. This video is also brought to you by T&K Outdoors, not just a good dude, a veteran Marine like myself, but also offering soft goods and now killer suppressors. All right, now as promised, I said I would talk about when you don't want a suppressor. Now there's a limited amount of times I would say you don't want a suppressor on a bolt action rifle, but I'll say, okay, if overall length is a problem for you, say it doesn't fit in your backpack or something like that, and you say, I'm gonna ditch the suppressor, I would prefer have a folding stock so that the added length of the suppressor is countered by the folding stock, so I can toss it in my backpack or in the back of the car, wherever it needs to go, and have kind of business as usual. If you say, I need to fit it in a backpack, there's quick release systems where you can detach and reattach your suppressor. I'd recommend that. But if you say, you know what, no, I gotta do a direct thread and I gotta leave it on or take it off, then I can see that you might not choose to be a suppressor host weapon and go unsuppressed. But that's like, I think that's a weird choice personally. I would rather have a suppressor on all of my bolt action rifles. I would love to hear if you guys have come up with something I have not yet as to why it would be a good idea to not have a suppressor on your rifle, assuming it's legal in your state, of course. Guys, if you like this content, make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe. It really does go a long way for the channel. I really appreciate you. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the comments.